You're going to love what Sean Payton had to say to me and New Orleans media at Super Bowl Radio Row. Scottie Montgomery interviews for the offensive coordinator position, how he could change the New Orleans Saints, and why Michael Thomas's return isn't just about getting better at wide receiver. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always for making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget that we are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube as well. I am your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, Canal Street Chronicles, Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to start off today's episode with a conversation that I had with Sean Payton. We did a little bit of a walk and talk, myself, Amy Just of the New Orleans Advocate, Times-Picayune, as well as Fletcher Mackel of WDSU. And he answered several questions, but there are a couple of moments that I want to highlight. First, let's talk a little bit about what Sean Payton had to say about Dennis Allen, who was elevated to be the New Orleans Saints head coach. And it's clear here that the new head coach, Dennis Allen, has the trust of former head coach Sean Payton.
Listen, I feel great. Obviously, he's been with me and he's been with our program for a long time. I think that lends itself to some continuity. There's a lot of real good coaches there. It would be different, I think, if they were bringing someone from outside, after 2 or 3 wins. But Dennis has earned it, and I think he'll do a fantastic job.
So there you go. You heard the word again, this time from Sean Payton's mouth, though. Continuity. Unsurprising, right? To see Sean Payton, Gail Benson, Mickey Loomis all in line and all basically on the same page there. And of course, Sean Payton at this point has no bearing on what the New Orleans Saints do moving forward. There was a moment with Cam Jordan that I caught on video where Cam Jordan told Sean Payton, hey, you're not my boss anymore. You can't tell me what to do. And they were joking around and all this other stuff. But it was fun to see Sean in that environment. I mean, we're literally walking with him from one radio hit. I think it was CBS Radio. And we're kind of just walking with him all the way over to his hit on NFL Network, talking to him, asking him questions and things like that. But the thing that came up all the time, every stop that he made was, hey, are you going to come back to coaching? Or people asking more specifically, are you going to come back to coaching for the Dallas Cowboys? And I think you're going to love this answer.
So this is I'm going to go live here. I'm on Media Row. I've had 4 Media Row questions that have been consistent. When are you coaching again? And are you coaching the Cowboys? And listen, I understand and appreciate the question. I want to do TV. All right. And I'm really here because I'm going to interview with some network people. So I understand they have to ask the question. But still Who Dat and still pulling for those guys back home. And again, when a guy gets in, when someone gets in the Pro Football Hall of Fame from your team, that's a big deal.
So 2 big takeaways here. Sean Payton is not going to be coaching the Dallas Cowboys in 2022. Dallas Cowboys fans can calm down, sit down, be humble. But when it comes to, speaking of be humble, by the way, what an incredible Super Bowl halftime performance yesterday. I was geeked. But when it comes to what he was doing, the other piece of really interesting information there is that he was interviewing with networks because he wants to do television. And he told us that, right? He had a 93-minute farewell presser that he did with New Orleans media. And he spoke about that. He wants to try TVs. He thinks he'd be very good at it, all those other things. And so there he was at Super Bowl Radio Row, not only doing all of the hits that he was scheduled to do, and he was there with Zebra Technologies, which you're going to learn more about either later this week or next. And but in addition to that, rather, he was also interviewing for jobs. So expect to see Sean Payton on a television, right, during some NFL broadcasts next season, or maybe even collegiate broadcasts next season as well. We'll see. But really, really good stuff from Sean Payton there. And he gave us more good stuff as well, because we'll talk about offensive coordinators here in just a moment. The Saints have already brought in 2 outside candidates. They don't really have a lot of internal candidates when it comes to offensive coordinator, except for just one, and that's quarterback coach Ronald Curry, who I've said before might be a year away from the offensive coordinator position. But I did ask Sean how it was working with Ronald Curry, his thoughts on Ronald Curry. Here's what he had to say there.
Ronald's the best. Holy cow. He's done a great job. I've been with him for a while, and he's one of those rare two-sport athletes, North Carolina, football, basketball. He's a tremendous person and someone that was a big help to us and helped us win a lot of games.
So Curry continues to get praise. You heard Ian Book talk about him the other day. If you didn't hear that, make sure you go back to, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday's episode last week, my interview, my sit down with Ian Book. And then you hear Sean Payton here talking about how great he is. And so you can see everything that I've been talking about for the past year about Ronald Curry being well regarded and highly regarded. I think that still remains true within the New Orleans Saints organization. So he should be the lead internal candidate when it comes to offensive coordinator. He might not be the lead candidate, though. The Saints did bring in two offensive coordinators, potential offensive coordinators for interviews last week. And one of them in particular could completely change what it is that the New Orleans Saints offense looks like. And maybe that's a good thing. We'll talk about that and much more as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. But I want to tell you first about our friends, of course, over at Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. It's February. This is usually the time that I start to drop off of all of my New Year's resolutions. But thankfully, I had a really steady resolution at the beginning of the season or the beginning of the year, and it was to eat right, eat healthy, and snack well was my big one because I'm a bit of a snacker. And so I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to indulge in something, that I indulge in something that does something good for me. And that's why Built Bars have been huge. And I haven't even felt like I've been doing a resolution because I just love eating Built Bars anyway. Y'all have heard me talking about Built Bars for years now. And I love these things. In case you haven't heard of them before, protein bars that taste like candy bars covered in 100% chocolate, but we're talking only 4 or 5 grams of sugar while you're getting 17, 18 grams of protein. Listen to some of these flavors. They've got mint brownie, coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream. I know they all sound so sweet and they certainly taste delicious, but still just 4 or 5 grams of sugar on these. And they also have puff bars as well that are also absolutely incredible. So go and check them out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. You can try them out. And I'm going to help you do that. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, so that you can get 15% off of your order. That's promo code LOCKED15, 15% off at built.com. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Thanks, as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day, every day. So grateful to be here with you. And happy Valentine's Day. It's genuinely my favorite holiday of the year. I got the red couch here for you, for those of you that are watching on YouTube. I want to talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints offense and why a new direction seems likely for this team. We have seen for years the sort of blend of Air Coryell and West Coast offense under the Sean Payton vision for the past 16 seasons, since 2006. Even when Sean Payton wasn't able to be the head coach in 2012, that was still what they did. And then we saw it condense over the course of 2018, 19, 20, and then start to open up a little bit more in 2021, though still remain majority condensed. Now you're looking at an offense that could potentially go an entirely different direction because you're going to be bringing in an outside offensive coordinator. That at least seems likely. Defensive coordinator seems like that's going to be internal. Ryan Nielsen, Chris Richard, everyone that I talked to over the course of Super Bowl week as well as the Senior Bowl, it seems to believe that that's what that's going to be, that is going to be an internal deal. So the external part of it, or the outside hire, would come from the New Orleans Saints offensive coordinator spot. And the Saints so far have interviewed a couple of external candidates, the first of which being Cowboys wide receiver coach Robert Prince, and the second of which being running back coach for the Colts, Scottie Montgomery. And I want to highlight both of these guys because they are so vastly different than what the New Orleans Saints have done over time. Now, the funny thing about Robert Prince, which is where I want to start, is that he was the Cowboys wide receiver coach for like 2 days before the Saints went out to see if he wanted to interview as their offensive coordinator. So they pounced pretty quickly on this guy. Last year, in 2021, he wasn't actually with the Cowboys, he was actually with the Houston Texans. But before that, for 2014 to 2020, he was with he was a wide receiver coach as well as at one point acting head coach of the Detroit Lions. So you saw him take guys like Kenny Golladay do great things with him. Guys like Marvin Jones do great things with him. Guys like Jamal Agnew and move him to those spots. He did some pretty incredible stuff over in Detroit. I know Detroit isn't known for being the greatest team or anything like that, but the wide receivers there were challenging. Remember in 2020 when the Saints and the Detroit Lions played, that was concerning, right? Those wide receivers, and the Saints were down a couple of corners in that game and everything. Now the Saints, of course, came out on the right end of that, the right side of that, because they just kept defying expectations all season. But those types of moments, those types of receivers that were able to be developed and were able to win off of a simple route tree, right? Not the Kyle Shanahan route tree, not the 56 different routes that you can run in McVay's system or anything like that. It was a simple route tree. You won because of the scheme. And so that should sound familiar to Saints fans. And the other piece of it is that the way that that system works best is what you're seeing out of Kellen Moore in the Dallas Cowboys, or with the Dallas Cowboys. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Dallas Cowboys tried to reunite Kellen Moore and Robert Prince, who worked together at Boise State. Because Boise State, actually, Robert Prince was the wide receivers coach there and then became the offensive coordinator there. And Kellen Moore was there as well. So I see what the Dallas Cowboys were trying to do, but I also see the New Orleans Saints saying, hey, wait a minute, focus on the run game, simple route tree, wide receivers winning off of simple route trees. That's something that they would like to embark upon as well. And that also gives you a little bit of spread offense as well. Now, the other piece of it is when it comes down to the second candidate in Scottie Montgomery is the RPO. Scottie Montgomery is considered an RPO specialist. That's what it is that he is known for. Let me grab his history here. So as a coach, he was the head coach for East Carolina 2016 to 2018. He was with Maryland as their offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach in 2020. So Tua Tagovailoa, and then with the Indianapolis Colts as their running back coach with Jonathan Taylor, who had nearly an MVP season in 2021 and then 2022 as well. So that's where he is right now. He'd be coming from the Indianapolis Colts. And I think it's interesting, this idea that he would be somebody that would bring the RPO to the New Orleans Saints offense. Dennis Allen is very clearly in a fresh direction on the offensive side because Robert Prince brings you something very different than what Sean Payton did, and Scottie Montgomery brings you something very different than both of those guys do. And if you look at the RPO, I think that a lot of people see that and say, oh, the New Orleans Saints seem like they're really set and moving ahead with Taysom Hill, if that's the case. But that's not necessarily the deal. There are a lot of RPO-heavy quarterbacks in this year's draft that you don't even have to draft in the first round. Guys like Desmond Ridder, guys like Sam Howell could potentially fall to the second round, and you're perfectly fine either trading up to go and grab them or trading into the bottom of the first round to grab them, things like that. So you can get the fifth-year option on the quarterback, which is what will often make guys jump for quarterbacks or teams jump for quarterbacks in the first round. So you could see all of that working out where the Saints could potentially roll with Taysom Hill or add a free agent quarterback, like reunite with Teddy Bridgewater, for instance, and then draft a rookie quarterback that they could effectively work into their system over time. That might not be the most ideal because that might keep you from being competitive right away. But if that's the route you're going to go with completely changing the offense and going to something that feels a little bit more collegiate, RPO spread, then you might as well put that in the hands of somebody that's run that system very recently, as opposed to trying to shoehorn a quarterback into that system. So two very, very intriguing offensive coordinator candidates for the New Orleans Saints. And of course, the internal candidate, which I believe would be Ronald Curry. We'll see which way the New Orleans Saints go in terms of the direction that they pick, but it's very, very clear that Dennis Allen is looking at something different on the offensive side, and that should be very exciting for New Orleans Saints fans. Coming up next, we're going to dive into our look at how this also impacts Michael Thomas and why Michael Thomas being back in 2022 isn't just about the wide receivers. Let's talk about how it impacts the entire offense. We've got that and much more that we'll go through as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. And as we get into that, I want to remind you that football might be over for this season, but basketball is still full steam ahead, both pro and college. We got March Madness, all of that on the way as well, men's and women's tournament. You've got the All-Star game and the All-Star break coming up for the NBA. So a ton to get in on. And of course, when it comes to BetOnline, they're going to get you all those props, odds, and lines more than they've ever had before. And it's a place that you're going to find the next fired coach in the NFL or the NBA, all of those other things. So go and check them out, betonline.net. It's the #1 spot for all of your betting needs. And that's not just basketball, right? You've also got hockey, boxing, UFC, MMA, Olympics coverage, everything you can imagine. So head over to the site today, betonline.net, And make sure that you check it out on your laptop or your mobile device, whatever it is that you use. And then you can see all of the trends and action that you need. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Saints. Michael Thomas returning to the New Orleans Saints in 2022 is no longer just a possibility, it's a reality, and it changes everything. Now, here's the deal. We talked about this last week because I started hearing this over at the Senior Bowl. Then when I started seeing it getting reported, I was like, all right, dope. We know what's happening here. There's an expectation. Let's talk about it. So I talked about it during Senior Bowl week. Michael Thomas will be back, or is expected to be back. Of course, everything can change at any time. It is the NFL after all. But Michael Thomas is expected to be back with the team in 2022. During Super Bowl Radio Row, Super Bowl week, I kept hearing more and more and more of this, and also kept hearing some more details around how things have been kind of going between the New Orleans Saints and Michael Thomas. And everything that I've heard so far is positive. And now it's been reported by Ian Rappaport over at NFL Network that that is indeed the case. Things have moved forward, things have progressed, things have been positive when it comes to the Saints and Michael Thomas, and that there's an expectation that Michael Thomas will be back on the field for the New Orleans Saints in 2022. Now, of course, he's still rehabbing. He's still recovering from the ankle injury. He hasn't played football since basically the 2020 season. So because of, not basically, he hasn't. He simply hasn't played football since 2020 season. So is he going to be the same Michael Thomas? We don't know. So because of that, that changes everything. Because it's great to have Michael Thomas back, but at what level do you have Michael Thomas? Do you have 2019 Michael Thomas? Do you have 2016 Michael Thomas, his rookie year, which you would take in this offense, right? That was still a 1,000-yard wide receiver. The Saints haven't had a 1,000-yard wide receiver since 2019, right? So that impacts not only the wide receiver core, because you still need to build that up, it also impacts the quarterback spot. Because maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable with your quarterback being a young quarterback, right? We were talking about how the RPO interest by the New Orleans Saints could signify some interest in rookie quarterbacks this season, or other quarterbacks around the NFL that run RPOs, like a Tyler Huntley, for instance. So do the New Orleans Saints feel more comfortable going with a young quarterback that hasn't been a part of their system before, because of the fact that they're getting Michael Thomas back, who can win on the simple routes, who can win on complex route trees as well, who can win close to the line of scrimmage, and who can get you some surefire yards. Do I think Michael Thomas is going to come back in 2022 and have 125 catches? No, I don't. But I think he can go across the century mark, especially with the extra game, especially if he stays healthy, all of that. But he impacts everything. If the offensive line is a little bit weaker, then the offensive line's a little bit weaker. You have a quick pass option all of a sudden back in your offense. You have a sure-handed quick pass option back in your offense. If you're struggling in the run game because they're stacking the box, with 8 guys in the box, you've got Michael Thomas that you can go to on the outside. You don't even have to go deep, but you can get him in the hole in between the corner on a slant or on like a quick in or even a quick out, to where you're able to take advantage of the space that's created because of the fact that the defense is so compacted within the 8-man box trying to get ready for the run game. And the run game might be, hindered for the New Orleans Saints early on in the season because the Saints might not have Alvin Kamara because of this whole Vegas situation. So if they don't have Alvin Kamara early on in the season and they aren't able to bring somebody in that they feel very comfortable with, like let's say, I think a Jordan Howard might be nice, right, in free agency or something like that, then you still have somebody that can win even when the defense knows the ball is going to him. And then you're able to add to the wide receiver core as well throughout the draft. And this to me is really important. You have to be able to still add to this wide receiver core. Yes, it's great to have Michael Thomas back. But again, you don't know to what level. And you're not going to know until halfway through the season what level you're going to have Michael Thomas back when he is back. It's fantastic that he would be back, of course. But you still want to pair up somebody there, a Chris Olave, a Jameson Williams, whatever. You want to get that other option there so that if Alvin Kamara is out for the first 6 games of the season due to suspension or something wild like that, and if Michael Thomas is still getting into the swing of things early on in the season, that you still have another option. And then you're able to create, let's say that they do go with Robert Prince, for instance, at offensive coordinator. You're able to lean on the run game, just like the New Orleans Saints want to do, just like Dennis Allen said he wants to do. And you're able to continue to have these receivers that can win on these simple route combinations. And then the scheme can do what the scheme has to do. If you move forward with Taysom Hill, that's a great setup for him too. It impacts everything. It changes everything to have Michael Thomas back. For better or for worse, it changes everything. And I think that it's a great thing for the New Orleans Saints that they were able to sort of patch up this relationship. Because not only does Michael Thomas give you that reliable piece that everyone is going to pay attention to, that you can build around, right? You still have to do some building, like we mentioned, that can save you pressure on the offensive line, that can save you the 8-man boxes in the run game. Not only does he impact every level of your offense to have him back out on the field, but he also is a cap saving measure, right? If you had to trade him or move on from him, then you're ending up spending money for him without him being on your team. Now, if he's going to be on the team, you restructure his contract, you save the money, and yeah, you push it down the road, but who cares? The salary cap's going to shoot up in 2023, 2024 before his contract expires. Who cares? It doesn't matter. And so you're able to go ahead and restructure his contract, save yourself some money, get him back on the roster, impact the offense, build the offense around him, and solve a lot of your problems if he plays to 80% of his best. So it's a great thing for the New Orleans Saints that they were able to get that taken care of, because you've lost so much over the course of these past couple of seasons with people retiring and things like that. To have something come back to you that you missed all last season, and to have one of your best players come back to you at this point, could not be better timing. So great stuff for the New Orleans Saints to be able to get that all taken care of. Throughout the rest of the week, we have a ton more coming up for you here. We have an interview with Megan Payton. I have an interview with Chris Titone, who wrote Home Team, which was actually a pretty good movie. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. So we'll have a bunch of stuff to share for you from Radio Row that was just fun stuff. But then, of course, we'll continue to hit things and do our deep dives as we always do here on the show. We're going to start getting back to a regular schedule as or a more predictable schedule once the offensive coordinator, defense coordinator situations are all ironed out. We'll get back to mock draft Monday, Twitter Tuesday, fundamentals on Wednesday, midweek fundamentals, all of that. So we still have all of that for you throughout the offseason. But right now, my focus is to make sure that you're getting the most up-to-date news about your New Orleans Saints. So have a happy Valentine's Day, and I will see y'all tomorrow to make sure that you actually get that news. So we'll be back here with you on Tuesday to continue through. Thanks as always. Make it Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget to go and check out Locked On Bets. Make them your second listen of the day. Win yourselves some money. Your book Q handicapping expert Lee Sterling got everything you need over there. As always, I appreciate you for making me a part of your daily routine. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, you know where you can find me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.